but at this point, we have a quorum, so I'd like to call the meeting of the Business Development Commission for September 9th to order at 6:31. At this point, we normally entertain public comments, but seeing as we're not all that interesting, there is no public here to give comments, so let's get by that part. The only thing I do want to make mention on this agenda that at least got passed around, there should be an item number 3 that we're missing. A review of July 8th, 2020 minutes. I did send an addendum the same day, about a half hour later after David, Mr. Pizzolato had pointed out. So let's start, if we can, by reviewing the minutes from July 8th. And once we're done with that, I would like to entertain a motion to approve those.
All right, why July 8th? Didn't we do that in our
That was
meeting?
that was our downtown dedicated meeting.
Yeah, I
So
Got
so the meeting that we approved meeting minutes for was our actual BDC meeting.
yeah, we had, and I only had on the last one. Okay, so I had sent those out. I don't know if they're probably not listed here. It was very short. The minutes, there was basically just a description of talking with the company that had presented Daryl and his company. PRI, that's it.
I'm just feeling.
No, I know. It,
Oh, no, they are here.
sometimes I use it.
They're at the back. They're at the back. So,
And we
Bill, it's at
It's
the back
on
here.
the BDC. I'm like, what is going on?
Dinner time meeting, that's Joe. It's good.
Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from July 8th, Business Development Commission.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, do we have to do roll call? Because we are,
No.
okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, the ayes have it.
I just would like to introduce Lizzie, who's also with A5, who showed up. Hello, Lizzie.
Hi, this is Lizzie Kreinler with A5.
Hi, Lizzie.
Hi,
Welcome.
thanks for having us.
And John Harris from A5 as well. Good to see you.
Yes, thank you, John. Okay, so now let's look at, let's review the, move on to the review of the August 19th minutes.
One thing I mentioned, I didn't do that.
It's already correct.
But it's fixed already.
Thank your good friend Susie, because she had pointed that out
Oh, okay.
last week. Okay, so those will be corrected.
Voting panels.
There's names, but we've got a lot of stuff.
Everything else.
To keep the. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the meetings from the August 19th Business Development Commission meeting.
Second.
Although, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, that is approved. And now, thank you guys for letting us conduct a little bit of housework. We'd like to introduce the members of A5 that's next up on our agenda. So welcome in, and it was Lizzie and John, is that correct?
Indeed.
Okay, from A5. At this point, I'd kind of like to turn it over to you guys. I know that you guys have already presented in front of our Public Relations Committee. And I'm assuming you probably had quite a bit of conversation with Mr. Hedges and Mr. Ray as far as preparing for tonight. This is the Business Development Commission. We're kind of a de facto Economic Development Commission, just with a different name. And we look forward to hearing from you guys. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Yes, and we have been spending time with Mr. Hedges and Mr. Ray every Friday morning. The last couple of weeks, we've had a status call just to get started. And we did listen to the PR committee and get the PR committee's input on developing a brand for Hampshire. We did that, I think, just recently, and we're grateful for the opportunity to talk to you guys. I know we're going to go about an hour, and I already saw some people waving some fans, makeshift fans in front of them. So, but if you don't mind introducing yourselves. So, yeah.
Voting the census, that's why we're waving fans.
Oh, I thought maybe you were hot. I heard somebody say earlier.
It is also a little warm, so they come in handy.
Wonderful, wonderful. But if you don't mind, maybe introducing yourselves very briefly, and then we'll dive into why we're here and the questions we're going to ask you.
Fantastic. Elaine, if you want to just kind of start by introducing yourself, and then we'll work this way around the room. That's okay.
Hi, I'm Elaine Thomas, business in town.
Dave Pizzolatto, I'm a resident. I work in marketing.
Sorry, you work where?
Marketing for a living.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm Ryan Krajewski. I'm a village trustee here in town. And then I'm not in marketing for a living, so I'm very excited to hear from you.
I'm Susie Copans. I live in the township of Hampshire and I own my own direct sales business.
Wonderful.
Bill Swalwell, I'm on the Business Development Commission and the Downtown Beautification Committee, longtime resident.
Okay, good. Thank you. And someone's on the phone?
Yeah, and then we've got Ian Lamp as well. Go ahead, Ian.
I'm Ian Lamp, president of Lamp Construction. We're based in Elgin with ties to Hampshire, and I think a former commissioner got me involved, and I don't know how to say no.
You like it?
Yes, I do. Be careful what you like.
I know.
Yeah, good. Well, good. Thank you. A brand is your story. It's the story of Hampshire that you want to tell to current residents, to those that you want to attract to live there, for economic development, both retention and attraction, and to bring visitors into the community. So whether that's for a morning, an afternoon, a weekend, a festival, a stroll down Main Street to shop in your community, go to some sort of event. But ultimately, that's an opportunity for people to be introduced and sort of test drive Hampshire. So we're looking forward to working with you guys, as we move forward on this brand. That brand story that we're going to work with you to develop is going to be clear, concise, consistent, and compelling, so that every time you want to do something to communicate or market to a key audience, you know what the Hampshire story is and how you're going to tell it, and how to answer the question for that intended audience of what's in it for me. So we really want to get to what differentiates you, makes you different or better, and that's one of the reasons for asking you guys questions tonight and eliciting input from you. And since we're going to do about an hour, we might, if we could, we'll try and get through all of the questions. And if we need to do some follow-up or one-on-one conversations, or somebody wants to, have that kind of conversation just as part of this process, we're happy to do so. But we want to be mindful of your time and all that you guys have to do. So any questions before we start? All right. So first question, and I'm going to allow the chair to direct to figure out who's going to be voluntold to answer first, unless somebody does volunteer. But it's a simple question, just broadly: what makes Hampshire different or better as a community?
And before we go, as the commissioners, if this is a question that you want to answer, please just raise your hand and that'll direct. I certainly don't want the responsibility of picking who's going to talk. But
okay. Yeah. No. I was just offering you the opportunity to start. Just to start it.
Yeah. But I certainly, we have a very bold and intelligent group, and I would like them, if you feel like it's a question you want to contribute to this. These are the people who are going to be instrumental in designing our brand. So these are who we want to talk to. So the question again, just to restate it, is
what makes Hampshire different or better? Who wants to go first?
I will. I purposely moved to Hampshire because of the small town atmosphere. Less crime, more neighborly feeling. And I purposely moved here for the kids in the schools.
Okay, good. The schools. So, and if you don't mind, just how long have you lived in Hampshire and from where did you come?
25 years. Before that, Elgin. Before that, Iowa. Before that, Nebraska.
Okay, so Nebraska, Iowa, Elgin, Hampshire. Great, thank you. Who else? What makes Hampshire different or better?
I can echo what Susie said. We moved here 17 years ago from Arlington Heights. And we did not move because of the schools, because our kids had all gone off to college. We moved out here because of the small town atmosphere and more space and just a nice atmosphere.
Cheaper taxes too.
It was cheaper than Arlington, yeah. And twice the fees.
Yeah, at twice, 3 times the property price.
That's right, that's right.
Yes.
Can you describe, when you say small town atmosphere, describe what you mean by small town atmosphere?
I like the way downtown, it's time we moved in. We had a hardware store. It was just very active downtown, and I really enjoyed that. It just felt people knew your name. Anything. I asked somebody once. I said, "What is it? What is there downtown?" He said, "Anything that you would need. And if it's not downtown, you don't need it." And I found that to be very true at that time. Everybody was just very friendly and looked you in the eye and wanted to be helpful.
Great, great. Who else? What makes Hampshire different or better?
I've got a couple of thoughts. I've lived in town since '72, moved from Elgin. Growing up here as a child and going through school and now ultimately staying here. I guess one of the things that I recall, the sense of feel that you get from the village is kind of a quaint, historic, old-fashioned sort of feel. Much like Elaine said, the downtown businesses, used to offer pretty much everything that you needed. Rarely did you need to travel. Kind of encompassed all your needs that, I guess things have evolved and changed, but I think the village still possesses that sort of feeling.
For example, when COVID first hit, came out on Facebook through the community group, kids were missing birthday parties, and they created one of the first drive-by parades for the kids to celebrate birthdays.
Right. We heard about this. That's fantastic. And so we're going to get to this. A couple of you have mentioned that downtown had everything that you needed. Obviously, times change over 30, 40, 50 years. But I do want to make sure we circle back and have somebody address, sort of what you'd like to see, downtown, obviously with the streetscape coming. So, sort of from your perspective, what's new or what should be new, or what you'd like to see or what you're working towards at downtown. But let's pause that thought for a second. But if you want to be thinking about it. So 2 of you on in person would love to get you to answer. And then Ian would love to hear what you have to say also.
Question?
What makes Hampshire different or better?
It echoes everyone's comments so far. I mean, we moved here 14 years ago, and I grew up one town to the east. At the time, that town only had 300 people when I grew up there. Now it's blossomed and grown. I think the character within the town, everything always seems to tie back to the main street. It is become a staple of who we are as a town. If you were to remove the main street out of the village, the town would lose kind of our body. One thing I think is important to mention is all of us have been here for quite some time. And it's probably important to note that there's probably a large portion of the population of the village that have lived here probably 5 years or less.
Okay.
I think having that perspective might be good into your overall research. So, yeah.
And then Ian, if you wouldn't mind jumping in, I can go last.
Oh, okay. I get it. I actually was a resident there back in the early 80s, like 83 to 85, I want to say. No, was that 80, 82 to 83, 82 to 84. So I spent a couple, 3 years out in Hampshire. Yeah, at least 3, because my youngest son was born while we were still living there. And it was back in the day, so anything, south of town or east of town or even south of town and north of town did not exist. And back when the high school and the middle school were together and one elementary school, so it had its quaintness to it. I'm a homer. I was born and raised in the Dundee area and lived in Gilbert's when Gilbert's had 600 people in it. So I like the smallness of it. Unfortunately, I think the smallness of the area is evaporating quickly. But it was there were those that have it was kind of nice, the history. There's a lot of the folks that were still there, that family names that founded Gilbert's, and then there was those that moved to Gilbert. I'm sorry, not Gilbert's, Hampshire, to make like the quietness and way back then it was nice, is because there was everything you needed was in downtown. And as I say, times have changed, but it was fun. It was kind of nice, is the fact that we lived maybe 4 or 5 blocks from downtown, and when the weather was nice, we walked to the high school or for programs. We walked to the library. We walked to downtown to pick up stuff. Walked to the grocery store. So it was before walking in town and was a big thing. So
Right.
It was a quieter time in life.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And then I think, like what everybody said, the reason that we're all here tonight, I think, is because we believe, not tonight, but on a regular basis, is because we believe that Hampshire, I think, has, I think this hasn't been mentioned. Everything everybody said, I think, makes a lot of sense, but there's a sense of quality about Hampshire that I think is relatively unique. Now, it may exist in other places, and I'm sure it does. But one of the things that my wife and I moved here 17 years ago to raise our kids. And the one thing that I felt is that we shared a common sense of values with the people that we lived with, a sense of quality. People took care of their yards, they took care of their kids, they took care of their responsibilities. We're safe, but there was a sense of quality about it. And I don't know if that comes from the farming roots that is really sewn deep into Hampshire's heritage. I think a sense of self-agency is really part of being a farmer in a big way. So I think that's one thing I'd like to add, is I think there's a sense of quality about the people who live here. I think that's really, really important. And then you have the pragmatic things. It sits at the intersection. I mean, the reason I moved out here is because I'm pragmatic more than anything. Is it sits at the crossroads of 4 of the biggest intersection roadways in northwestern Illinois. And so it's really easy. I do business all over the Chicagoland area, so it's very easy for me to get into it from where I need to go. So I think that's a big part of us being different as well, is we're highly accessible.
So, and when you say the roadways, obviously, I mean, you said 4, though. I'm thinking 20, 72, 47, obviously 90, Randall Road.
Yeah, Randall Road, not as much, obviously, because that's
further.
Yeah, it's 12 miles away. Yeah. But certainly 90, 47, 72, and 20. Now, I grew up in the suburbs, and 20 and 72 were major roads in my youth growing up.
They're major state roads.
Yeah, major interstate or state roads, not interstate roads. And they cut right through Hampshire, so very easy for me to get to where I'm going.
Okay. So
hi, this is Lynn O'Shea. I'm
sure.
late, and I haven't I don't know what the protocol is. I haven't been able to make the last couple of meetings, but just commenting on why we love Hampshire. We moved here in 72, so we've been here not quite 50 years. Our children grew up here and they did very well in school. I mean, they have their own, one has their own business, and we were a business here in Hampshire as O'Shea Electric until last year. My husband finally retired. But we moved out here, one, because at that time, Hampshire teachers were winning all the accolades on WBBM TV or radio for absolutely fantastic, academic excellence. And the other big factor was open space. It's beautiful out here. It's relaxing. And we were so surprised. We moved from Winfield. Winfield is where we're originally from, both of us. And people waved to you. People at blocks carried your groceries out. I mean, it was such a different environment than the bigger cities where it's hustle and bustle. People don't give you eye contact when you're walking down the street, and the atmosphere of, being part of a community rather than hurry up, get out of my way, and the beauty of it out here. And it's still beautiful. So
yeah,
that's my two
great. Great. Oh, thanks, Lynn. Thanks for jumping in. So you've already answered sort of our second question about why you currently live here. But somebody mentioned during the course of the answers that you've had an influx of new people. So if you don't mind, give us your thoughts on why you think people are moving here, and do they share the same sort of sense of what Hampshire is that you have expressed?
I can share just from a handful of folks that I know. They're reaching that next stage of life where they had a growing family, and they may have started, many of them may have started one town to the east, which is Pingwood Grove, in a townhome or, something to that nature. And they wanted to be removed from such a dense housing atmosphere to more open space and into a bigger home. And so everyone did move out west. They did not like the density of a Pingwood Grove. And that's just comes from probably 3 or 4 folks that I know personally that have moved to Hampshire within the last 5 years.
I think it's affordable here too.
Right,
Housing is
it's much more affordable. Get a bigger house,
Yeah.
more lot, more property size, for less.
Right.
So you could get more space, more open space, more house, more property. And what about the values? Again, are folks coming out and sort of sharing some of the things that you guys have expressed? That quality education. I love the word quality, by the way, and that idea of quality. But again, are people coming out and going? If we were to go out and ask 6 or 8 people who were new in the last 5 years, the first question we asked you, do you think that they would say the same things, or would they say something different? And if it's different, what might it be?
Yeah, I want to answer this one. My 2 cents on this is the reason why you're here. Because ultimately, without a brand, we've left it to everyone's own interpretation of what Hampshire is. If we would have had a brand that existed, we might be a little bit farther along in being able to try and impress upon people what the hierarchy of what's important for Hampshire. So having you here is, in my opinion, just fantastic.
Oh, right. So what we're going to work on, this story, this brand will help you with resident attraction, with building a stronger sense of community, and we'll dive into a question on economic development here in a second. Anybody else have a thought though on that question of, if we were to ask, if we were to line up people who have moved here in the last 5 years, would they say different things than you guys did? Would their reasons for coming be different?
I think the thing that I hear from newer residents is they can't get over how friendly everybody is. You hear that over and over and over again. People are so friendly here. But we've already mentioned that. When you come from the suburbs, people don't look you in the eye. You know, they don't talk to you. They'd rather ignore you. But yet out here, everybody, well, my daughter was in high school, and this is years ago. She was interviewed by the local newspaper, and they said, why don't you get into drugs and things like that? She said, how could I? Everybody in town knows my mom, and she'd find out. So everybody knows everybody else, and everybody's very friendly.
Yeah, right. You can't really get away with anything, right? Yeah,
You know,
okay.
as far as though the quality of the schools, I'm gonna be honest, that when we moved in, that was not mentioned. I mean, I've not really heard that bragged about.
But the people you bought from didn't send their kids to Hampshire schools. That could be why.
I never met the people we bought from.
Okay.
But I mean, we never really heard, it's not been something that I have heard through the years, even in town or people coming into the store and even saying, you know, bragging about the schools. I've not heard that. So maybe, I mean, what Dave's saying makes a lot of sense. If we had a brand and we were focusing on bragging about some of these things, but I've not heard that.
So, and just confirm for me, are the schools still quality schools? Do you think that if we were to build that story and talk about the schools, is that something that would be a reason to attract people? Would it be believable?
I will say, I'm sorry, Ian, you can go next. Yes, the schools are quality, but I don't know if you're familiar, but we're not a Hampshire school district. We're District 300, so we encompass 5 different communities and counties. And so it's not like it's just Hampshire.
Right, yeah, no, we're aware of that, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ian.
Well, I just said I kept it simple, yes, about the schools are being quality, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Just to add to that, I think, because I think vaguely remember being young, it was so long ago. But I think young families are highly pragmatic, right? I think they're looking for more house, right? Safety in schools. And I would think if you're gonna line up a panel of new people who moved into town, that's probably going to answer those questions, right? Is they need to get out, you know, for us, we grew up in the suburbs, my wife and I did. And we had 2 kids. We were about to have our 3rd. And we looked at the bigger houses in Glendale Heights, and I could buy 3 times the house in Hampshire, and it was an easy decision. Just can I make the drive and still get to work? And that's what brought me to Hampshire is, it's right on 20. So yeah, I can make that happen. But I think most people are going to be highly pragmatic. It's on the average, the large average is good schools, safe area, good house for the money.
So let's segue a bit into the business and economic development side of things. So why is it, do you think, a business would want to locate in Hampshire? What are the reasons that you guys as the BDC, you know, if somebody walked in at your next meeting and said, I'm interested in coming to Hampshire, sell me, what is it that you would say to those folks?
Before anybody answers, could you do me a favor and refine that a little bit? Are you talking about a retail customer, a manufacturing company? What are you thinking? Because I mean, the answer is right.
No, go ahead. Yes, I mean, we always start with umbrella reasons, sort of reasons that would attract everyone. But to your point, and I was going to drill down into downtown, but sort of staying high level. In other words, if you know, so let's start with sort of the manufacturing or distribution, sort of the, you know, that side of things, because obviously you have the interchange as
Sure.
one part and you have available land, and then let's go to the retail part.
I would say good schools produce typically intelligent workers. And most, you know, it's one of the best parts about it, I think not just Hampshire, but Illinois in general, we have a really strong education system that produces good workers, which every good, specifically manufacturing company is going to need.
Okay.
I think a lot of retail businesses look at the overall potential of buying low, knowing that how much property in Hampshire is already zoned for development At some point, homes will be here. So you can establish your business here now and allow the growth to come to, be able to be a staple in the market.
Right. So more rooftops coming. So therefore, growth for your business.
Yeah.
I also think having a I-90 interchange that is toll-free is huge. Because you get a lot of traffic on 90, but they get on and off without having to pay a toll.
Yeah, great point.
What do you think, Bill? Any ideas?
More along the industrial lines, the close proximity of the truck stop,
Yeah.
the availability, in addition to the, no toll, but now with all the amenities out there for the transportation industry, things have evolved out there. It's become a lot different than it used to be. That's one of the big marketing things I see from an industrial standpoint. Location, proximity to the tollway.
And knowing that Rockford's airport has become pretty much the cargo hub for Amazon, UPS. It's not so much being in close proximity to O'Hare anymore as it is being proximity to Rockford. We happen to be like almost smack dab in the center.
I think too, with the renovations that we're planning for Main Street, we're gonna have a pretty downtown. And I think that beautification is going to add to the desirability for businesses to move in.
The design makes such a huge difference.
I will, the one thing that, I don't know where this fits in your question, but, so we do have a historic Main Street with a very historic downtown. But the geography of Hampshire is so big and vast that not everybody that lives in Hampshire can feel that piece. So, that's just maybe something to consider as an outlier.
I think that's a great point, and I didn't say at the outset, but I grew up in McHenry County, grew up in Crystal Lake. We've worked in a lot of communities in the Fox Valley, and I was in Rockford the other day. So from Chicago to Rockford and all the way over to Galena and Freeport, and I think that's a very good point. You have to be looking for the Hampshire downtown. Right, you don't just sort of roll. It's not on 20 and 72. It's not on 90. Marengo's downtown. Whatever's left of it. I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's just different than it used to be. It was on 20, right? So you could, and I remember going from Crystal Lake to Rockford a lot, and you'd roll right through downtown Marengo. So I think that's a good point. It's a plus, and it's a minus, right? You have to look for it, but once you discover it, or there's a reason to discover it, you like you said, that streetscape and that small town sort of charm, should draw people in and make them want to come back.
Yeah. Our business is retail, and we are a destination location. People come specifically to our store, and then we direct them to somewhere to eat, and then they leave. But
so, and forgive me, your business again is
Stitching on State. It's the quilt shop.
Okay. So you're downtown. So let's stay with that. And I recognize we got a couple of folks on the phone too. So I want them to weigh in on either industrial or retail, but let's go towards downtown. What is it that you're with the streetscape? What is it that is the BDC looking to attract? What are you interested in? In other words, do you have this brand, this story, collateral piece, a brochure, whatever? What is it that you're trying to achieve in downtown?
Business owner, I can say what I'm hoping is accomplished is that if people are going to drive here, and they drive here from out of state even, if they're going to drive here, that there is something more to do than just our shop, that will entice them to come because they can linger longer. They can go have a cup of coffee or go have lunch or just go to get some specialty meat, something like that. I'm hoping that would encourage people to come to a brick and mortar.
So like dining and entertainment. And
just even it's just to go have lunch and sit down and something that they maybe would not get if they were
Maybe like a Long Grove. You go to one
So like-
side, but then you see other stores. that interest you.
Absolutely, to make it worth the trip.
Right. Yeah, Long Grove that's an interesting example. Okay. Others, what would you like to see in downtown?
Ian or Lynn, do you guys have any thoughts?
Well, I mean, it was downtown. It was always nice to have. You need a good variety. I mean, right now you got your restaurants and a library and a grocery store, car dealer that will be moving out eventually, and but I think it would be nice to have some sort of convenience store or hardware store, or combo thereof, so that if you needed something like an Ace or a True Value, would be awesome, because that's all those odds and little stuff that you don't have to run back to Huntley or to Dundee or Elgin to go to Home Depot, which is going to take you about 30 minutes one way.
Yeah, right.
So it'd be nice to have something like that along the lines.
Lamp Hardware has a nice ring to it.
I'm going to talk to my good friend Dave Ziegler first, and Adam, to see if they won't consider putting one back in there.
That's right.
Lynn, do you have any thoughts?
Oh,
Lynn.
you're muted.
Lynn?
I'm sorry, I'm muted.
Hey,
Am I
you're
on
back.
now? Okay.
Yes, much better.
I look at it from a slightly different perspective. Why am I not downtown more? And it's because of the no hardware store, no laundromat, some of those basic services. We used to have a Hallmark. We used to have a place where you could get jeans and clothes, and all those places have, people retire and no one took their place. So what you tend to do then is go 30 minutes away or 40 minutes away, where you can get all of that where you're going to. So you go to a destination to get all of that done. And I think that is something that I don't know if it belongs right downtown or outskirts of town, but I think without that, people from that live in this community shop outside of this community. It's more convenient to do one-stop shopping. Yes.
I think every business that is downtown should be unique and have something unique about them. Just because otherwise, what's going to separate Hampshire to everyone's point? You can go anywhere else and convenience is king right now, to where if you can make as few stops as possible and get everything you need, you win. And so if there's a way that whether it's a bakery, whether it's a restaurant, it could just be made up of small businesses that again refine, basically embody quality, have that quality component to them. We have many of them downtown right now. It just actually, we talked about this quite a bit over the last couple of years, is that the businesses that are currently here, well, many of them tend to be best in class. You pretty much have to travel far to try and beat some of the businesses that we have within Hampshire.
Right, that's a great point.
Well, soon after joining this committee, I went out and visited Dixon, Illinois, because they're Main Street. And the village people that I talked to there said their goal was, because they had Shopko on one end of town and Walmart on the other end of town, and their goal was to provide downtown Dixon what people could not get at Shopko and could not get at Walmart. And they've been very successful at that. And I think that's a good way of looking at it. If people from Hampshire go to Huntley, to Walmart, or Elgin, to Target, what can we provide that they couldn't get there?
So stay with that theme. Someone mentioned Long Grove and you just mentioned Dixon. Are there communities with downtowns that are attractive to you? In other words, if I say, gosh, Hampshire's downtown, if it was like X, what downtown comes to mind? And I recognize that there's scale and different geographic placement of communities. But what downtowns come to mind where you think, hey, they've done a nice job?
I'd like to take this one if I can, just because the town that we've sort of been talking about the entire time, Dixon, I think, came in when Susie brought it, but Geneva really has been the place that has been mentioned the most. Now, we know on the river.
Crystal Lake is here too.
Crystal Lake's nice, but Geneva has been that has been the place that we've probably mentioned the most as a group. But I think there's a lot of examples of, and I think that's, I just want to kind of pipe in on that whole topic is, we recognize the world is changing. Right. And we recognize that Amazon isn't going anywhere. And we recognize that shopping online isn't going anywhere. And one of the things I think that our board has done, at least thinking about, and we recognize that we have limitations because it still is a private world. The public has only so many levers that we can pull, but is driving people to have those experiences that Amazon cannot deliver. Right. The interaction with their community, spending time with their neighbors, a place to entertain their family when they come in, a place to just get together, get out of the house and get away from a mouse. And I think, as far as I imagine our downtown, I do want to sort of answer some of those bells about a hardware store and answer the questions about, laundromat. I think Lynn had rightfully brought up. But fundamentally, what we're looking to do is drive an experience downtown more than anything. A place where you can go and spend time outside and interact with other human beings. Because I think if there's one thing that is growing in shorter and shorter supply in the modern world, that is interacting with other humans. And I think that there's still a need within our community to provide that for them. And I know that's one of the passions that I have, is to find a way to provide a space that they can go and see other people and be with them.
That's what downtowns do at their best. Agreed.
Cedarburg, Wisconsin.
Yeah, Cedarburg. That's where my dad lives.
And then
Cedarburg?
Yes.
Galena, Illinois.
Galena, yes.
Galena. And did somebody say Crystal Lake? Did I hear Crystal Lake?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Did others agree on that, or did I hear that maybe Crystal Lake, maybe not?
Agree.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, unanimous consent on that, I think. Unless anybody has any different, but no.
Downtown Woodstock is nice too.
Woodstock's awesome. The square, so cool. Yeah, so cool. Woodstock.
St. Charles is doing a good job too.
Yeah.
St. Charles is definitely.
Okay, that was Ian.
Yep.
And okay, so we've got Long Grove and Dixon came out early. St. Charles, Geneva, Cedarburg, Galena, Crystal Lake, Woodstock. Any others?
Or Geneva without the traffic.
Geneva without the traffic, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so from a visitor standpoint, and because you just talked about the experience, and this doesn't mean that Hampshire is going to, be a tourist destination a la Galena, but you do want to bring people into the community, again, for the downtown, for those experiences. So what is it, and I recognize we're in a pandemic, but you also you've been very good about answering the questions as if, the world at some point we're going to have our masks off and we're going to be able to get back with one another and have those experiences together. So those shared experiences. But from a visitor standpoint, what can draw visitors to Hampshire as you move forward from a BDC and a village perspective?
Well, I think a lane store is a big draw. Like she said, all over to shop there.
The Stitching on State.
Okay.
Lane store.
And
her husband.
So that could be a starting point. Also, Taco Barrel, the new restaurant in town, is a big draw. So we already have those two locations that seem to draw people from outside the community in.
Okay, great. And those people, though, one might attract a wider audience if it's, food, restaurant, and one a more specific audience. But each of those audiences, particularly even if they're niche audiences, can be very powerful, like you said, because people will come from farther away and they'll come more often and they'll be loyal visitors to your community. So that's a great call. What about events or experiences? Again, thinking of 2021 and beyond in downtown and elsewhere.
Coon Creek Days.
We would say we have our Coon Creek Country Days. which nothing says country quite like that name. That is our fest. That is such a Hampshire, but it is, it's,
How about the car show?
and then we've got car
I
shows.
like that.
Yeah, that's a big car show.
It's a big,
Very big car show. What do they call it? Suds
suds
and,
and
Fun.
fun.
Suds and Fun?
It's a nice car show.
Yeah, it's very big. I mean, there's gotta be a couple hundred cars.
Draws a lot of people from.
Yeah, a lot of people come from all, so Coon Creek Country Days and I think the car show are the two big draws for sure.
Right.
Okay. Okay, good. Good. All right, good. Lizzie, you want to take this next question?
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing that has happened in the past 5 years in Hampshire?
COVID-19, probably.
That hasn't happened elsewhere.
Okay.
You mean in the downtown itself?
No, just in the community. What in the last 5 years? So, for example, whether it's the interchange or a new business or it'll be the streetscape, anything in recent memory that's significant, that is a building block for the future.
Well, if the streetscape gets approved, I mean,
That's it.
there's nothing else in my opinion. No, that's big.
Farther than 5 years ago, it was huge in the community when they built the new high school outside of town, and the high school became just a middle school. And then they built a second elementary school near the high school, so that kind of split up the hometown feeling. It was a big event. I think it affected the community.
I think the hardware store closed.
When the hardware store.
I'm sorry, that was like killer.
Mhm.
Okay. The hardware store was downtown?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody on the phone?
This is Lynn. I think expanding and upgrading the parks has been a big improvement in terms of what's happening out at Orris's Park, putting in the baseball diamonds and the lights and Jake Lane walking path going up there, and some of the improvements that are planned for there, and all that open space and the water, open water. It makes it beautiful. Beautiful just to go for a walk. I think that's been a major improvement in the last 5 years.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you.
And we built a lot of homes too. I mean, not as many as some towns, but I think certainly, I mean, we finished one subdivision up. We started another one that's rolling along. We've got a third one that's starting. So, I mean, I think anytime you go and you build subdivisions, there's an automatic modernization that happens in a town. There's a lot of new stuff that gets built. And I think as David mentioned, you bring in a lot of new residents that aren't typically homegrown Hampshire, people, because there's just more houses than there are people living here now. So I think that's probably been the most defining for me, other than the baseball team almost winning the state championship. That was a big deal. So it was very close. But I think the new subdivisions probably, I would say, is a big thing.
I've got some comments in terms of a couple of existing businesses that have been in town for a number of years, owned by families that have lived here for a long time. Recent transactions or purchases by other parties, whether it be someone related or someone from out of town, reinvesting in the town and putting money into an existing business. One of them is Block Supermarket. Gentleman recently, last couple of years, has really invested quite a bit financially in that downtown business. And the grocery store was always one that I was always concerned we were going to lose. But the fact that we had someone from out of town come into town and invest a substantial amount of revenue into it just only fortifies, I think, its remaining in town. I try to shop there as much as I can. One of the other businesses is kind of a long time, call it a drive-in restaurant that's out of the corner, south end of town, State Street and 72, called the Chicken Dip. And a young gentleman, I think his family may have owned it or managed it in the past. He recently took it over, and I hope it works out very, very well for him. Widely recognized, it's kind of a nostalgic sort of drive-in. If you're from the area, coming and going, a lot of people identify the Chicken Dip with the village of Hampshire. And to see people reinvest in existing businesses, we've had our losses, hardware store and some of the other things, but to see folks step into town and really put their money where their mouth is and invest in it is really, really refreshing.
Yeah. Okay. So block and chicken dip. Yeah, those are great. And that's one of the things. There's an overall story, but there's individual stories. And what you just identified, it happens in successful communities. People who live there, who put down roots, want to make sure that the community succeeds in the future, and they reinvest their money into the community. So whether it's in buying an existing business or starting a new business, but invigorate and finding something that's different. Like you said, not every community has a grocery store, but fewer and fewer will have independents, and not many are going to have drive-ins, such as the one that you guys have. So that's a great point, and that's should be part of the, I guess, the BDC and the attraction is who in Hampshire would like to start or invest in a business, and by the way, thanks to the great work of the Hampshire BDC, we're proud to announce tonight, we're putting out the news release tomorrow that Lamp Hardware will be opening in downtown. Sorry, Ian.
All right, who bought this? Who got these guys?
Yeah, right. Sorry. I'll try not to pick any anymore. So
you won't. You're not the first, and you won't be the last.
Yeah. So anything else there in terms of the important things that have happened in the past 5 years? Anybody else got anything? If not, Lizzie, let's go to the next question, and then.
Hold on, just one other thing too. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention the investment that Stanley Machine has made into town. Not just only in the adding of new buildings, redoing buildings, expanding buildings, adding buildings, and also the purchase of land, as well as coordination with the village in the hopes of growing our industrial capacity. Which again, given they have owned a very large tract just south of Allen Road and east of State Street that they've already submitted plans to us for a new industrial park. So I think that's to the long-term plans of Hampshire, that's a big, big deal. And that the family picked Hampshire in many respects because of the kind of community that we have. Actually, one of the key employees in that business actually sits on this commission. She's not with us this evening, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that as well. That's a big thing for us.
Well, yeah, and again, that's another positive story. So that's 3 at least of individual businesses and their ownership. So, Lizzie, the next question.
So looking ahead, what is the most interesting or significant thing that's about to happen in Hampshire?
Anybody can say. Go ahead. Who else could streetscape for sure, 100%. Unanimous. Anybody who varies will be removed. Immediately.
And be forced to open up a hardware store.
That's already done. Ian's on it.
I'm on it.
I'll work the front counter for you, Ian. Don't worry.
Don't quit your day job.
So are there any other significant things that you would like to see? Again, think of vacant land, think of the interchange, other things that might be in the works that, just you'd like to see happen or need to happen for the future of the village.
Streetscape. I mean, really,
Streetscape.
You've heard all throughout tonight of how downtown is the heartbeat of this town. And this is medicine for that, tenfold. So if we move forward with this plan, it's going to just do so much for the village as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you say do so much, is it because, so just think ahead. I mean, obviously I've been downtown. You have businesses. I don't know what the vacancy rate is, what the percentage is, and maybe Jay and Josh and Lizzie and I could talk about that offline over the next couple of days. But but you do have the car dealer moving out. And you've got some opportunities also to maybe build or put something new in. But when you say it's going to be transformational, keep going. How so?
Yeah, so one of the things that we lack are congregation space for the community to get together and actually celebrate key events. So we do have a tract of land just north that we do that with the Coon Creek Festival. But right now in the plans, there is design to allow the facilitation for us to host events on Main Street on a more frequent basis. If we're able to do that, now we actually have an energy, a meeting space, something that beyond just storefronts, it's a gathering place for the overall community. So that's what I meant by that.
Right, and by having a gathering place, if there's events and experiences there, people will come downtown, and then what would you expect to see happen? And where I'm going with this, we won't answer it tonight. This is about questions, about brainstorming, and about ideas and big thinking. But one of the things we'll work with you on is how you go from dreaming and vision and plan to story and brand, and then that attraction, right? And then how do you actually attract? Who do you try to attract? How do you reach them? And how do you sort of reel them in, if you will, and get them to come into your community and start a business and grow there? So talk about that. Take it to the next step. People come downtown, they're gathering, they're having an experience, they're feeling the charm, the quaintness of Hampshire. What happens next, you guys as BDC members?
I'll make a comment. This is Lynn. I don't know how many of you have visited the winery in Genoa, their wine bar, and now they have a little garden outside where you can sit and talk. There's pretty flowers out there. Boy, I'd love to see that move into the car dealership name, move out. And it's a nice gathering place. It would attract more young people, I think.
Right.
I know that when I went to the dentist, one of the girls said, boy, I wish Hampshire had a wine bar. And I thought, wow, yeah. Well, it's a 20-something, but even so,
sure,
it'd be great if we could encourage that business to come out here. And I think that would be an asset to our downtown and a gathering place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other folks.
Entertainment. One of the things we talked about throughout the last year or so is that we really haven't had an overly lack of businesses that we deem fit our persona willing to relocate to Hampshire. The problem has been that we just don't have available space that suits their needs to get them here. So whether it's the building owner, whether it's just we don't have the right piece, we have numerous meetings with people that feel the vision, understand the vision. We walked with business owners through our downtown after meetings, and they're sold, but we just don't necessarily have the right property available, so.
And I'd like to finish something on what he's saying, because as I'm sitting here I'm thinking of the 38 meetings that we've had, whatever, over the last 3 years. So I think what the streetscape, what it means to, at least to our group, is that one of our biggest fears is that small towns like us tend to get rolled over as the metropolis expands, right? And what we feared is if we didn't reinvest in the downtown, then we would just become, a speed bump along the road of Chicago expanding out west, and so it become a sort of a polyester milquetoast nothingness. But by reinvesting in the downtown and doing what we're doing at the level that we're doing it, is trying to preserve Hampshire as an entity, something that exists. And by doing that, what we're hoping to do is attract a type of shops, restaurants, artisans that will allow us to maintain some semblance of that rural quality of life, that quality, without just becoming a stop sign, in the metropolis.
Right,
And I
right,
think
okay.
that streetscape is so critical. Its essence is to preserve who we are, and then to hopefully build an energy that will attract vendors that will want to come here. And I think we have to do that tied in hand with the new developments, because that's the other thing. There is, we had one of our biggest builders just come to a meeting, 2 weeks ago, and announced another 986 houses that are looking to be started. We got a new school that's going to be coming into town. So I think in answer to things in the next 5 years, the combination of the streetscape, more houses, we hope will be the right cocktail that will attract the right types of vendors that allow us to preserve the type of space we think Hampshire's always embodied and we want it to embody in the future.
Okay, great. Just going to keep us moving. That's great input. From a branding standpoint, do you guys give us your thoughts on your goals? What would you like the branding to achieve?
I would like it to be something that is so well known that anybody you talk to from Hampshire, they can say that tagline. That makes us well known.
I'd like it to give us an identity.
Okay.
From my standpoint, the towns that we all mentioned, that we envision and embody, because I want that to cut, like, when we name those towns and everyone closes their eyes, they have a different thought of what those towns represent. How does Hampshire resonate equal amongst those towns? That when people say Hampshire and they close their eyes, they think it's on the same level of a Nape or Geneva or Woodstock or Crystal Lake,
Okay.
So, as you say, so the next time you ask a town and they say, what do you want your town to be like? Hampshire is what they say. Right? I mean, fundamentally, right? You want to be memorable. You want to be somewhere that people think is a great place to live.
Not only live, but why not have it be a destination?
Yeah, even that.
Absolutely,
Destination.
absolutely.
They can live someplace else, but they want to spend time here.
All right. Ian and Lynn, what are your thoughts on the brand?
Can we sell the concept of a great quality of life or a great life experience, something like that, where it is a destination, but it's a destination because everyone who comes enjoys living there, and there's a quality of life about it. Hard to get your arms around.
Okay. Ian?
And there was something I've been preaching, and basically there's just three places I attend quite a bit, and that's basically the office, my house, and a club I belong to, and kind of like a feeling of safety, of community, of family, of what a great place to come and live and work. And nowadays I think that pandemic has drawn me the fact of just a great little community to live, grow, and be a part of, and spend the rest of your life, whether just starting out or retiring or passing on your next generation.
Okay. So are there communities that, from a BDC perspective, economic development perspective, that you feel you're competing with and let's start with industrial distribution, the manufacturing side of things. Who is it you're really, competing with?
Elgin.
Okay.
Which one?
Huntley?
Oh, yeah, actually, Huntley, another one, Huntley.
Huntley. Okay.
Yeah, the bullies.
I feel like we're competing more with Huntley than with Elgin.
Well, yes, I agree with you, but at Elgin, if you look on the south end of town to the east, I mean, Elgin creeps right up.
I want to say Elgin owns the southeast corner of 47 and 72.
I think that is true. That is correct.
37 and 72.
Which is, yeah, and they just have resources and scale that we just.
On the south side.
It's true.
I just think of them being so much, I think of them totally different.
Yeah.
From working there years.
Sure,
I
sure.
feel like they're just big and impersonal.
Yeah.
And I feel like Huntley is more small town, more.
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable with Huntley than I am at Elgin.
Oh, sure.
Just.
Competition wise.
But Elgin is expanding. They are.
They are.
They're really aggressive too. But then Pingree Grove, of course, you know, they're like our little brother.
Is it Pingree Grove for rooftops for houses or also for, for businesses?
I mean, inevitably it'd be some businesses, sure. They're gonna dedicate some areas to commercial and,
47.
they've got the 47 corridor, we don't.
I feel like Pingree Grove is very similar to a Lake in the Woods.
Yeah.
Where pretty much most of the land has been committed for. And so they're really like, in terms of commercial, there's only so much opportunity before that land is gone.
That's right.
Right, so,
Certainly not.
it's not saying that, if they were to bring in like a Home Depot, for example, obviously that would kill any hardware business in any neighboring town.
We probably need to cut them too. If they start building 47, that's gonna grow.
It is a small little piece of, it's not overly.
Well, because he picks up right north of Big Timber is Huntley.
But that's a long stretch. I mean, 72
Absolutely.
to be.
That's certainly the next Randall.
What's the next, Randall?
47 eventually will be, I mean, I remember doing business and coming out west and I looked at Randall Heights and being like, where are we? And I was at Randall Road. And Randall Road was a 2-lane road with nothing on it. And now, I mean, now it's this massive, shopping district.
That's the way Route 59 is.
Right, and then 59, yeah, right. It's going way back. So, yeah, 47 will definitely be the next corridor. And then 23 after it.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? So we've talked about Huntley, we talked about Elgin, 47 Pingree Grove, any other sort of competition? Every once in a while, Marengo seems to wake up, but then you don't hear about them anymore. But Marengo, is that coming up?
No, for sure. Marengo, if the money comes through from the state, I mean, they just got, was it $26 million for water infrastructure. So if that goes in, I mean, we're talking about a different ballgame from, Marengo. Yeah, they did a smart thing by hiring a good lobbyist, I think, and she got a lot done for them. So we'll see if the money gets paid out from the big, what would they call it? Infrastructure plan.
Rebuild Illinois.
Yeah, Rebuild Illinois. Then yeah, Marengo is going to be a totally different player for sure.
Right now, it's mostly everybody east of us.
Oh, without doubt.
Has come
Yeah,
west.
Marengo has the same problems we have.
Anybody else want to weigh in on competition or folks that you're looking to or
You just
up
talk,
against?
or are we talking commercial or any?
Just either way, just do commercial or retail
Yeah,
or industrial.
yeah, I think Huntley and Pingree from a retail standpoint.
I think if you have to go any further, if it's not right here, if it's here, we'll shop here. Because people, they don't want to travel far. If it's any further than just right here, they'll Amazon it. So I don't know that, like, when I think about my tendencies, instead of me going down Randall Road and just, doing all that, if it's not right here, I'm just gonna order it. I mean,
That's
Walmart
right.
is now, they're testing using drones to deliver.
So
Yeah, I'm almost ready to order just to see it. But I don't, I just feel like it has to be, if it's here, I don't know that there's as much competition as there used to be
Yeah,
before Amazon and all that
yeah, sure.
happened.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
So we're going to wrap up here. You got other things to talk about and do, so thank you for sticking with us and for answering the questions. Everybody for participating. I'm going to ask this as one question, but you could answer it in one of two ways. It's your choice. So the question is again, and some of you've talked about it, but I want to summarize and sort of bring it on home. So if we were to walk in, a business were to walk in at your next meeting and say, why locate here? And answer the question, why should you, one reason you should come to Hampshire, and you can pick sort of the industrial side, the manufacturing commercial side, or the retail side, your choice on that. But convince me, bring us in.
I think potential, and that's what I'm thinking.
Well, so when you say, so convince me, what's the potential?
And just want me to answer that? But
Yeah, there's no wrong answer at this point. We're still brainstorming, so don't sweat it. I like that word potential, but go a little deeper.
I feel like because there is so much that we're on the cusp of here, that you can be whoever you want to be. You can develop whatever you want to do. We do have growth. We do have great ideas, and we're putting them into action. The streetscape will put a lot of the I wish this would happen kind of things, I think, into action, as long as we can keep perpetuating it, as long as we can build on it, instead of thinking of it as one event. It's just the opening event. Just come here because there's potential. This is the opening show.
Got it. Okay, great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I would say opportunity, that if you take care of this community, it will take care of you. And it's just, I don't have any other way to sum it up than that.
I like it. Okay, good. And when you say take care of you, is that back to that neighborliness, that people look you in the eye, that small town, you support, you're coming in to be part of Hampshire, we're going to support you?
Yeah, because right now we're not, obviously we don't have enough rooftops to say you're going to, you're going to become a multimillionaire by being here for 6 months. But knowing that you invest here, the residents of the community will support back to you. And as we grow, you'll grow.
Okay, great. So let's go Ian and Lynn on the phone, and then the other three in the room bring us on home.
No. On an industrial side, if you're trying to push it, it's the fact of access to 90. There's a rail spur, or an active rail line going through town. Good transportation from 90. It's a good dispatching center. The power's here, the water's here. And a good base for employees that can support your business. So that'd be something I'd push there, because if you're competing for industrial and industrial people, they're going to look for that as far as the talent, the education of the school system. Then the fact that the land is at a good price, is at a good tax rate too, so that would help as well.
Okay.
So.
All right. Lynn?
Yeah, I would stick with opportunity, because I think the growth in Hampshire over the last 5 to 10 years has been pretty dramatic. And it looks as though that's going to continue into the future, which should be a great opportunity for a new business to survive and hopefully grow and thrive.
Okay, great. There's 3 more in the room. We're standing in front of you thinking of opening a business. One business we're thinking of is industrial, sort of commercial. One business is retail. Pick it and convince us.
I'll speak to the retail. I think if the citizenry sees someone invest in the community base, establishing a business, opening a business, starting a business, I think they'll come to recognize the loyalty of the citizens in terms of coming back and supporting the business, like we've seen with blocks and how I go in there now. It's usually pretty busy, and Copper Barrel, same thing. Folks that have invested quite a bit of their own assets in the community. I think you'll see that from an investment standpoint, a return standpoint on your investment. And I like to think that the loyalty that the people will show by revisiting and coming back would be a draw in and of itself.
That's great. Yeah. Okay, good. All right.
I wrote down 3 things, and I used to be on the school board, and I remember when we were trying to expand and build more schools, we didn't have the tax base because the houses weren't there, but we knew that once the houses came in, business would follow. So I always think back to that. If we're going to have more rooftops in Hampshire, then the businesses will follow because there's going to be a customer base. So I put rooftops, I put down convenience and access, which they've already mentioned, 90, 20, 72. I think especially for 90, again, that easy on and off without a toll is huge, along with building of the truck stop and what's available there. And then I wrote down, not only is the town friendly, but I think our government is friendly to new businesses with the help and support of government and things like that.
So I want to let the record show. I was going to ask you guys that if it didn't come up. At 1 hour and 19 minutes, government came up. So and that so stay there with it. That could either be in some communities that means it ain't good, or in some cases it could be that it's just government works. So which is it in Hampshire? Realizing that, Jay is there and listening, we got a trustee there too.
It works.
I think it does work, and I think it's committed. And I mean, yeah,
And I think it's forward thinking now.
right.
I didn't used to think that, but I think it is now.
That's what I was on for.
Yeah.
Wait, it was or wasn't forward thinking then?
It is forward thinking now.
It is now. We're going forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's become a can do. I think our impression from before was, we can't do that. It was just kind of like,
Don't fight City Hall.
we can't afford it, or we can't do this, or we can't, no. And now I've just seen such a change in, let's talk about that. Let's brainstorm that. Let's see how we can do that. Big difference.
Okay, good. Who hasn't weighed in? I think the chair.
One time, we did the meeting at Resource Bank.
Yeah.
We got a huge turnout from the community and support, including the government. And I think that bodes well for what the future can be for businesses.
Yeah.
Good.
And I'm going to try to do the elevator pitch as a sales guy, because that's what I do for a living.
Sell elevators.
Is he said, I'm sure. Hampshire's what's next, right? We're next. And I think a lot of people in their life want to be part of something that's exciting. A lot of new growth is going to come, a lot of change is going to come, and I think a lot of it's going to be positive and good. And when we've had businesses come in, that's what we sell is, everybody likes to go through those above market growth. And Hampshire's going to have that in housing. Hampshire's going to have that in change. Hampshire's going to have that in park improvements and in businesses who start and grow. Hampshire, we're what's next. And I think that's exciting and that's fun. And I think people, specifically in the modern world, could use a little bit of that.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Did anybody not answer that question?
Now, let me just add something real quick. And you were all talking about.
I was going to start applauding.
Yes, I know. That's
when you were talking, Andrew, village board during my interview in the early days on the job. That's the message they gave me is they wanted somebody here to answer the phone who would try to make things happen. Let me give you one example. This pandemic has offered us a lot of opportunities to reach out to our businesses, especially downtown, but I want to talk about Buckhead Beef just for a minute. This is a company up north, a very large slaughterhouse that supplies gourmet steaks and meats to all the restaurants in the area. And during the pandemic, their business just stopped. Restaurants were closed. So they called Village Hall and said, can we sell retail out of this building? And in about 30 minutes, we gave them a sales tax form and they started filling out taxes and people started driving up to the front door. And I was just looking at Facebook, they've transitioned that into an online store now. So they're selling online out of that building.
And it's very good meat.
It's
Yeah,
great.
Who is this?
Yeah, so I think,
Buckhead Beef.
Buckhead Beef, yeah, it's a large company, north, probably 200 or 300 employees. And there were smaller stories like that. You know, the local bar in town wanted to block off the street, not just for seating outside, but to have events outside, including food trucks. So we made that happen. And I made a few phone calls just to make sure the board was okay, but after a while, that wasn't even necessary. So we really do try and make things work for people when they call and ask for things.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying this because he's in the room or he just spoke, but having a village manager with business experience and government experience helps. Having people such as yourselves on the BDC and the PR committee involved in the chamber who have real life, resident experiences living there, but also business experiences at starting and growing businesses is crucial because yes, in business, you're always looking for how to make things happen, how to make it different, how to make it better, how to make it grow. And traditionally in government has been, more limited and trying to find ways in many cases, to how to say no or not allow people to do that. So I think that just listening to you folks tonight and having what you have in place with the different commissions and with the staff and with the elected officials, it's growth growth has been here. Growth is also on the horizon, but it seems like too, you want to make sure that you retain that sense of community, that sense of togetherness, that walk down Main Street, look people in the eye, say hello. So you want to retain sort of what's best about, what made Hampshire what it is all of these generations as you go forward and grow. And if that's not accurate, please say so. But it's a nice balance of trying to get bigger, but also trying to get better, and also trying to retain sort of the best of what you've had in the past. I think one of those a couple of those business examples you guys talked about, Buckhead Beef and in terms of the government, Block, the chicken dip, obviously your business there, and the yarn business. And then there was another one that was, and the idea of a winery, right? What comes next? What comes next? And it might be something that was there before, but in all likelihood in our work, across the region, across the country, is it's going to be an adaptive reuse, a different use of that space. The car dealer is more likely to become the winery or the restaurant than it is a hardware store. So that's not to say you can't do a hardware store, but businesses in downtowns or buildings in downtowns are being repurposed for new uses. So and uses that people, and I think you touched on it earlier, that idea of experiences, right? So people want to get something they can't get somewhere else, and they want to have an experience that they can't get somewhere else, and that brings them there the first time, but it also brings them back a second and a third time. And forgive me, I can't remember everybody's names, but the words opportunity, loyalty, and what's next, I think are great phrases to keep in mind here. So with that, thank you. If you guys have any questions for us, fire away. Otherwise, we'll take our leave and see you again soon.
Okay. Anybody have any questions they want to ask?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for investing on us. And we're excited to see what you come up with.
Sounds good. Yeah. So we'll see you in person in the not too distant future. Thank you.
So thank you. Have a good night, guys.
You too. Bye.
All right. So that is item number 5 out of 28 things on the agenda. You guys, for the long haul. No, I'm just kidding. Good news, we don't have a ton left here. Thank you guys for doing that. I think this commission has had a big role to do in in shaping sort of village policy, village concepting and which direction we're going. I mean, not so much policy, but just guidance. And so I appreciate us taking so much time tonight to do that. So that was good.
Yes, good questions.
Yeah, I thought they were, yeah, you guys, I thought that was good.
It was good.
Yeah, I was impressed. Thank you, Jay, for bringing them to the village.
Next week, we're gonna have, all of the community staff leaders on a similar call like this.
Okay.
The library, the township, the fire
Really?
protection district, park district. And,
We're
then
gonna
another
do the Main
session,
Street Committee.
do a session tomorrow with our department heads here in the building.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so, all right, so that was, well, yeah, technically 4 on this written one, but it's, so brochure discussion, obviously is pending, so I'm keeping it on there because,
I'll just give you a quick update. Mike
Go.
met, today or yesterday? Yesterday, I think he was in, yeah, with the map guy.
okay,
And I let Mike know that we're ready for the brochure now, because we really want these guys to brand it for us when it's ready. So he's kind of finishing up the details now.
awesome, awesome. And that was kind of the thing we discussed last meeting, is that we get it, it can't, you know, produce it without a brand, but we can create all the content, so it sounds like that's what we're doing. Thank you.
He had real good success with the map guy that he met with yesterday here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. The next thing is the Susie and I, perhaps Susie, would it be possible? So you're gonna have,
We're here to make things possible.
would you like to join?
What, when?
So one of the things that we've talked about is the formation of the broader Main Street community, where a committee, excuse me, where a couple people from this committee marries with other people in other groups, Park District, Township, whatever, some of the other leaders. And we've kind of tabled that until the pandemic eases and things like that, because it's not something that's essential for right now. But do you think would it be okay if we join with, when you have the community and maybe we can make mention of our potential idea at that time? Would you be opposed to that?
This is just staff members though.
I think you said
Looking more at elected officials with you.
no, I thought you said you were gonna do a community, community leaders.
Just the community staff. So
Oh, okay.
executive director, the park district, the library director, the fire chief. And it's just an input session for
that.
ask them the same questions they're asking you here.
Okay.
We've always kept those meetings to 30 minutes and this is
Just quick,
probably gonna take an hour. But I don't know that you really want staff. I don't think you're gonna get a lot of staff people as volunteers to work on Michigan.
Okay.
You know, they all have their own meetings.
No, I get that.
Their own commitments at night. The park district asked me to be on one of their committees. I'd say I'm probably burned out on evening meetings already.
Yeah.
Not really burned out, but I don't really want to take on something else. I would love to see some board members from some of those other groups.
Sure.
On a board like that. There's nothing exclusive about this group. It's just that we kind of got very close and worked very closely together during the COVID when it was really intense. And so it's been a really good relationship that we have at the staff level. But I don't think those are the kind of people that would be anything like this.
Maybe you and I'll talk about this.
Yeah,
Because I don't know that.
Specific in mind.
Yeah. Let's talk, because I know we're tabling it right now. It's just on there so we don't forget. It's one of our main things that we've done. But I'll give you a call tomorrow because I do have a chat and I'd like to talk to you as well. Okay. Mr. Swalwell, do you have anything in beautification at this point to add? Any report to give?
Just an update across the street. I think it speaks for itself. The masonry on the front facade is all done. And they took into consideration that photo, Ian, or the image that you had captured off the internet. And I think they pretty much replicated the keystone and the masonry work on the front facade. It looks exactly like what you had shown. The windows on the front are all installed. They did some repair on the window frames around the sides that were rotted and needed some attention. All the cedar siding's been removed in preparation for new siding. And it completely has been house wrapped and taped. They're weatherproofed and ready to start hanging the siding. They've been working feverishly on the inside, concurrently with what you see on the outside. They've done a lot of work with the utilities, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And I think she's finished moving the walls that they're going to, and they're starting to finish it off on the inside. The place looks very, very nice. And I have to establish a date to meet the gentleman at the chicken dip. I have yet to establish a date to meet the gentleman at the chicken dip. I kind of wanted to figure my approach because I approached him once before and I didn't really get much of a response. I went down in person to meet him and introduce myself. This was probably about more like 3 or 4 months ago. It was shortly after the time he had purchased it, and I don't remember exactly when that was. But I'm gonna make it a second go around and see what kind of results I can get. Some ideas, and we'll see.
He's just a really quiet guy, and he's so buried right now because he can't really afford to hire as many staff as he normally has. So he's working every minute they're open. He's in the kitchen.
Good to know. Okay.
I
What's his
got to know
name
just because.
Justin.
Justin, yeah.
Justin with a J?
Yeah, Justin Fuller.
He's probably in his, he might be 30.
30s.
But we buy lunch for the village employees every once in a while, and I've gotten to know him just being that one, picking up lunch. But yeah, it would be really awesome to have that place worked up a little. You don't want to take the flavor away from it, but maybe just, that the intersection is going to be improved next summer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, July 1st, they'll start construction on a whole new intersection, and that's going to improve the flooding area and his parking lot. And
Is it pretty drastic, big?
yeah, be really nice lights, crosswalks. It's really a pretty dangerous intersection right now. We got kids walking across the Dairy Queen and Dunkin' Donuts. So it's an IDOT project that's been on the list for several years, and it's finally coming to bid next July.
Great. Good to hear. Other than that, I didn't have anything else, just those two.
Oh, yeah, so we have a little bit of money left before next year, correct? So it's
Yeah.
not like we can take out ton projects.
I haven't heard anything else from the one applicant at the Village of Hammer.
Yeah, Vintage Hammer.
Vintage
I
Hammer.
think
They
that,
call me the Village
I
Hammer.
think that's going to be.
Pardon me?
I think she's just going to do that on her own.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Okay, and then blocks, I know, I've already talked to their owners about
You
their
said maybe-
coming right in the spring.
Let me give you a heads up on blocks. We do have one little issue with them, and it could come to the maintenance, which is later on your agenda. Their incinerator is not working. And they're not allowed to use it. We shut it off because it just blows smoke and dust everywhere. It needs to be repaired. And I talked to Sam and Jay both, and they're just always making excuses that the company that needs to repair it won't repair it or isn't available. And about once a month, they burn it anyway, and the fire department has to go over and shut them down.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the only thing that they've done that's really not cooperative. So just be aware of that. Every time it happens, I just tell them, look, you gotta have to recycle your cardboard instead of burning it all the time. And they just, I don't know, maybe they don't have the money to fix it or something.
Yeah, maybe, it's possible.
And I know it's not part of facade, but it's something that they need to spend some money on at some point.
It does, yeah,
Because it
absolutely.
really creates a hazard.
And like I said, I just know that they've mentioned to me that they're thinking spring of next year is when they want to do their project. So I don't. Okay, well, you just let us right into that. Jay, why don't you tell us, I saw some emails go around about something to do with ordinance enforcement.
Yeah, so I think Josh has been very helpful, of course, but we really want to focus on these two buildings, right? This is the only room I get lost in. I always point the wrong way, right across the way. And so administrative adjudication is just one tool we could use to enforce that, but to create a whole new system, to really do that right, we should probably start some of our light traffic tickets and move a lot of that stuff to administrative adjudication. Could save the village a lot of money, a lot of court costs, than what we're doing now.
Yep.
Genoa actually has a real good program, that Josh has gone over there and met with them about. But it's kind of homegrown and it wouldn't really work for us in terms of the software. And you have to have notifications that remind you to send a second notice, that third notice and all that. But the real goal right now is to take care of these buildings.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is have our current building department write the citations and take it to regular court. So we do have to, have Daddy's had a chance to go down there yet?
I don't even think that is gonna be the person, but if he is, I'll go with him. I imagine he'll just be an inspector for BNF.
Okay, so, but the violations, have we confirmed it for sure what they are?
I haven't spoken with him about it.
So that's the next step, is to take the buildings. Thaddeus is leaving town now. You all don't know Thaddeus personally probably, but he's been handling the building department for a little over a year. And he's doing a great job, but he's moving on to another community, or other communities. And so we have Tony is the new guy. Tim, sorry, Tony was the last guy. That only lasted about a month. So Tim is the new guy. Josh and he will go down, they'll determine what the building violations are, we'll write the citations, and it'll be written on a regular ticket that will take them to court. Our current administrative adjudication process, which we do have, is only for towing vehicles that are part of a crime being, or a DUI or something like that. We thought we could just add it to that, but Mark Schuster said, no, it's not the proper place for that. Our attorney said that. So we just want to get these two moving.
As we've said before, right?
That's a short-term goal, right?
Yes, that really, at the end of the day, is we are spending people's money, right, to redo all these buildings. And then we have owners that we feel in some ways are playing ball. Like we got
Which two buildings are there? Which two buildings are there?
I forget the
dollar
address.
store.
I forget the addresses now, but
Household.
And I recommend to the commission that the Rose Garden is included in that.
Yeah. But is that, have they,
In
they,
talking to the owners of the business, they have tried repeatedly to try and update the awnings that are torn, the stucco that's falling off the side of the building. And it seems as though the current property owner is adverse to anything that increases his property taxes. So any improvements to the facade could therefore increase property taxes. That's why he's pretty adamant, according to them, that why they don't want any, why he doesn't want any improvements to the property. So I recommend to this group that they are included.
I would agree.
I agree too.
Because that position that property owner may be taking is not in sync with what we're here for and what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So in light of that contrast, I would wholeheartedly agree with you.
And that's one person's set the story, but
And I've had the same conversation with Tony and Sam, and that they have a landlord who is basically, today doesn't take calls, doesn't, and the reason, they're sort of, he's able, or she is able to survive that way because the village hasn't done anything, right? So they're able to sort of ignore every request for improvement, all these other things, is because they're not held to account. So I certainly believe
What
that.
kind of issues are there in terms of maintenance?
I didn't look at it too close, but the awnings are all ripped and torn apart. The south side of the stucco on the building is cracked and falling off onto the sidewalk.
We got it.
Yeah, so it just, again, I mean, certainly don't.
those are violations. Those are
Exactly.
considered violations.
If there's violation, we think they should be.
yeah, so I mean, really all of this is gonna fall under a single violation of the property maintenance code, which is fine, it's still a violation, but it's not like there's something that says you can't have torn stucco or torn awnings, it's just a generic.
Yeah. We think like this landlord may need that lever.
Right.
To sort of do so.
Yeah, I just recommend just take a look at it
Agree.
and assess it.
Yeah, good point, good. I'm glad you brought that up. And Jay, to your point, is the only reason this is on here is because of those buildings.
I like the idea of an administrative adjudication.
Yeah, sure.
I think we talked a couple of meetings ago that this is probably not the right time during the pandemic to try and implement something like that. But I do like the idea just because it would save the village a lot of money. If we kept a lot of these minor violations from going to Elgin court, save court costs, we wouldn't have attorney's fees. It would be more like a small claims court where people try to represent themselves.
And not saying that we don't, I mean, our focus isn't saving the village money in that way. Our focus is to preserve the business district that we're trying to attract people to. And we think that these buildings are an inhibitant to deal with that.
And along those same lines, I have two comments. One is I would like to enlist the beautification committee giving us some advice on Village Hall. I'm going to recommend to the village board that we not in the near future, at least in the next 5 years, try and build a new village hall, but we make this one work. And I've been talking to the bricklayer or the mason across the street, who's doing a great job, I think, and as well as Tina. And I'd like to get some advice on, we have some old pictures, I'm sure you've all seen some of them, of what the village hall used to look like when it was a fire and police at one time. Allegedly, there were basketball games upstairs, I still struggle to believe that. But some people actually said they did it. But anyway, we're talking about pretty substantial renovating upstairs, put offices up there, putting an elevator in to make it accessible. And spending a couple $100,000 in this building to make it last 5 years, which probably means adding 4 or 5 workspaces as we grow as a village. We're going to need more staff. So that's one thing I'd just like to ask you to think about that, and when the time comes, really give us some good advice on how we could do that. I would love to do a historic renovation, and we had a meeting here. Bonnie Engel was here, and she asked the review at that meeting, Historical Society to meet. It's a pretty tired group. We're not recording this, are we? Okay, sorry, I should say that. It was hard to even have a conversation with the current people because they just have kind of lost. They don't have any real focus at this point, but there were some ideas passed around, but Bonnie was trying to get that going. And, but they brought up a lot of ideas, and a lot of Historic Society has all their things at Historical Society. They have a space upstairs where they store a lot of really interesting old paraphernalia. So that's one thing. The other thing having to do with maintenance code is that house that we own down the street, the village owns, which is absolutely the worst maintained building in the village. Goes to Chicken Devil.
That's those little house.
With gray and the white and the.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, all that we own that building, we bought it about 2 or 3 years ago. It's not real clear why, except at the time, I believe there was thought the chicken dip when the present owners left, that maybe the chicken dip would go under and that whole corner would become developable. So the idea was to buy that house, maybe the house in between, but now the guy in between is, thanks to the village, aliens, and the state are all conspiring against him to buy his house.
Which might be true.
When I told him that there was no discussion in executive session to buy his house, then he wanted to know why not and what would we pay for it. So he's just a little paranoid. But in fact, Josh just today gave me a questionnaire from someone. We're getting quotes to do demolition on that house. So we need to do that. We either need to fix it up and maintain it, which would be $25,000 to $30,000 just to get it within code, or tear it down. And we're gonna find out what it's gonna cost to tear it down. So that's something we need to do if we're gonna enforce our own code.
So Jay, I love the thought of looking at this, possibly interim.
Yeah.
Until we move. Because again, that's kind of fits in the theme of what we're trying to do for all of Main Street, right? That if this becomes available, it is actually useful as something that's already, viable.
And if you want to just get an idea, just turn around and take a look at that little room behind you. We put a kitchen in there. It's all cleaned up. Our computers are set aside. That's what I'd like this building, the whole building to look like inside. I'm real pleased the way that turned out. We did it really cheap. But it is going to take some, the exterior. I would love to do it historically, whether we can afford to do that or not, or maybe what they're doing across the street is not really authentic historic, but it's in that direction, right? So I'd love to do that. Maybe leave this building for somebody else in 5 years. Maybe the Historical Society would love to take this whole building someday. Maybe we can do that in 5 or 10 years when we do build a new building. But this building is going to have to make do for a while, and there are things we need to do. Roof, we need to do several things to make it really manageable, so it doesn't deteriorate even further. Yeah. So anyway, I'd love to get the beautification committee to spend a little time and give us advice on that.
Sure.
Comments?
All right, and then Jeannie had an event this evening, and she was not able to join us, but she just wanted me to share with you that she's working on Moffitt Physical Therapy, and that Hampshire's very own will be out in September.
Can I add one thing about Jeannie too? You guys are talking about events. Jeannie's coming up with a great idea, I think, that she presented to the board last week about the
holiday thing?
Yeah, the
That's a
holiday.
great idea.
What is Mistletoe Market. Instead of having it indoors at the school, it's going to be outdoors on the street.
That would
And
be
she's
real nice.
given us a map, all the sites, basically the whole downtown.
Yeah.
Will be about 80 vendors outdoors.
Wow.
And I think and it's going to be November 7th. So I think that'll be really great. It'll be early in the shopping season. I think we'll get I think she's just doing a great job. And I think that'll be a really new event. That event I didn't get to attend last year, but I think it kind of dwindled a little bit last year compared to previous years from what I've been told.
What is the geography of that? I mean, what streets?
I can, you can grab it, it's right under my, on the left side under my light there, on the credenza. She gave us a map. But it's all of State Street, and then it goes over on Maple and pretty much all that.
We got a really, they do, but what we can do from our standpoint of letting everyone know way ahead of time that it's coming, clear your calendar. And so oftentimes I hear about events 5 years before they're here.
Jimmy's a pretty good promoter, I think.
And
What if we have a business development booth? And people can stop by and see what our plans are. Just a thought.
I would love to have a group of, 'cause I think that's, even though we just had an advisory role, I think all of us will be questioned about, just the budget and whatnot. If that downtown comes about, right? We get first of all, the state, we're all gonna be asked, along with the board, anybody else affiliated with the village, there are things broken in Hampshire. Why are we spending $1 million downtown? Right, so it's good.
It's good.
Yeah, wow, it's the only place I want to spend it.
And actually, I think that's something that we'll talk to A5 about. They're good at these kind of PR things. So I think we can help them help us market that. Part of something that I haven't really talked to you guys about yet is who the various audiences, mostly tonight was about economic development and business because of who you are, but they're also talking about how we can communicate to our own citizens. And well, that was part of it about the new citizens. Yeah. Newer ones, but yeah, like how can we communicate our brand and our vision for Hampshire to the people that live here?
I think there is a bigger number that would surprise all of us of new residents that have never come downtown.
I think so. And once they start to get their habits and their behaviors and their route, it's hard. You have to really pull them in for something significant.
There is a mindset of traveling west, work east, and all your kids' activities are east. The traveling west, even if it's 2 miles, seems like daunting.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. You guys are talking about Randall Road, and I do live as close to Hampshire as you can get. I can see Hampshire because I'm real close to Briar Hill, but I'm in Sun City because we didn't have the kind of housing here that I needed or wanted.
Yeah.
But I'll drive to Best Buy in Rockford before I go to Randall Road. I just despise Randall Road, and not to mention it's been under construction for about 3 years.
Yeah, right.
The people in Del Webb, they will talk about coming to our shop as though they are taking a vacation trip. It's far. I mean, they go, you guys are so far.
Yeah, right.
Serious.
5 mile an hour on your golf cart.
It may actually be.
We do have a lot of residents we have a lot of my neighbors that enjoy the Copper Barrel. They've discovered that, especially during delivery and all, because they will, that's as far as they go as Del Webb.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting population, I will say that.
That is a really, yeah.
If you look at the population density right now, I truly believe we actually have a restaurant desert in this 10-mile radius.
We do.
Too many people and enough restaurants.
Not enough variety.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, we never talked about Red Ox and so they,
I don't know what the status is.
we don't talk about them at all.
I think that, they're just, unless you know different, Pete and, Demetra are, they're open for, a buyer, or if the buyer comes with what I would consider to be an extremely, generous offer. But short of that, they're just running a restaurant and paying down their debt.
Yeah, we checked with them when it came to outdoor seating. Of course, they have their own patio and they really kind of, they don't need much help. We offer quite a bit, but,
Just kind of keep to themselves, and, I don't think he loves it. It used to be Jimmy who used to own it. Then he had an unfortunate passing, and Peter, who was Demetria's brother, came in to run it, and they've kind of just been running it. And I think he really wants a family restaurant more than a night scene. So you can tell how they've adjusted to that. They become more of almost an old style, like not diner, but it's just a family restaurant as opposed to, when I first got here, it was more of a night spot for young people and stuff like that. It's kind of shifted more towards you drive by the parking lot now after 8:30 or 9 o'clock, even on a Friday or Saturday, and there's just not a lot of cars in the parking lot.
I have a question
Yes.
for you, Jay. You mentioned that Crown has talked about coming back in.
Yeah.
At one time, Crown owned the property between Widmeyer and Harmony Road. And that was all gonna be Crown
That's
development.
Oakstead. I'm sorry, that's the Tams Farm property.
Right, so is that where they're gonna be building their homes?
No, that property is a little bit, well, first of all, let me back. They're also gonna be opening up another phase of Prairie Ridge North. They're just about to sell out of the current lots, and they do have some infrastructure a little further north, so. We spent a lot of time with Crown since February, really, and they made a presentation to the board about this development. But this development is called Oakstead. It's right across from Lakeview. The entrance to Lakeview is the
That's
entrance.
why all those trucks and cars are over there all the time. They're dangerous.
Lakewood, you mean, right?
Are they
Sorry,
Lakewood?
yeah, Lakewood. So right off Big Timber,
Yeah.
the main entrance will be up, and the school will be right on Big Timber. The school board voted last night to the school, so it's official now. We've had 2 conference calls now, first with attorneys and then engineers. So the development process, the goal is to have it, that particular corner has not been annexed yet. So the school district and what's called the Weisman property has to be annexed to the village and rezoned. So the goal is to have all that done by January 17th. The village board will vote on January 17th. I'm really pleased they've hired the sales manager who was in charge of DR Horton. And before that, he was working at Bell Webb. So he was on the builder side before, now he's on the developer side. So his job is to go out and get builders to build the houses on the lots that Crown develops. But the Oakstead property, the Tams Farm property that you're talking about, it was larger lots. It's all been platted and paid for. There's no infrastructure in there, but it's all been platted. If they were to replat that area, that particular subdivision, the detention requirements have changed. The county detention requirements have changed. It would be very expensive for them to add more detention. So they were thinking about coming in. When they came in February, they said that was going to be their first priority. They could start digging there tomorrow, but they haven't gotten much interest from builders because the lots are larger. And what people are asking for now, it's interesting when they hear and the board heard a lot of this at the meeting. Millennials and us baby boomers have come together in one way. We want more house and smaller lots. As we get older, we don't want to maintain our big yard. And the millennials who are coming out from the city now in droves since COVID virus now they want a nice house, but they also don't want to mow their lawns because they're used to city life where they may have a little patch of green like my kids do. So I think what we're going to see is smaller lots with the same house and the same cost, really. They can get the same price for the same size house on a smaller lot, and they get more houses in that same area. And the village wants to be very cautious that we don't end up with another Lakeview where you have cars in every square inch parking because there's 2-car garages and 5 cars per household. Sorry, I keep saying Lakewood. But Crown has a really good reputation for doing quality developments. We talked a lot about the forestry and the trees up there and landscape architecture. They have some really interesting plans. In fact, the landscape architect was part of their presentation 2 weeks ago. It will start on the north half, and it'll probably be about 300 homes, I would say.
And that's where?
This will be, if you look at Big Timber and 20, that intersection. Yeah, it's right here. That's kind of hard to tell where that is though from that far side.
You got 20.
If you look at 20 Big Timber and then just go east on Big Timber,
Yep.
It'll be to your right all the way along there, and it'll also.
Before the high school.
Pardon me?
Before the high school.
Before the high school is west.
Oh, you're
East.
talking east.
East.
Yes.
East from
Yes.
20. So
Got it. Across from Lakewood.
So the other thing that's happening is IDOT is now starting to plan that intersection improvement, and I think that could come, Josh thinks it might come as early as late next year. If not, it'll come the following year. And that'll be a big improvement, because that's a really dangerous intersection, and it'll bring Briar Hill into that. Somehow they'll have to integrate Briar Hill into that intersection. So that subdivision will also come down 20. There'll be an entrance, maybe about a quarter of a mile south of Big Timber off of 20, and that road will go right through to the entrance to Lakewood across the street on Big Timber.
Got it. All
And
right.
that area up north is, and the school is definitely going to be built first. But I think I just had a long conference with them today, and I think that Crown has 2 builders very interested in that property. And I think we'll see them digging in the spring.
Okay, so my question is, west on Big Timber, years ago, when I was first on the school board, the property between Woodmire and Harmony Road, north of Big Timber, was to be high-density senior citizens housing.
Yeah, that's,
Is
that,
that
that
still?
project is gone.
It's gone.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I do have a meeting, I have another conference call on Friday with, the people who own the Glycogen property, which is west of Lakewood, on both sides of Briar Hill. And that was supposed to be a big, they have about 600 acres, last time I guessed, about 600 acres up there that goes all the way north of the high school on Big Timber. And I'll be talking to them tomorrow about what their plans are. But they bought that land with a plan and expectation that Briar Hill would be an interchange. And that's probably that'll probably have to happen before anything serious happens there. But they actually have fire hydrants in that
Yes,
cornfield up
right.
there, because they were getting that far along with it.
Right.
And
That was supposed to be a factory, I think, or zone commercial.
yeah, well, there's some additional housing just west of Big Timber, of Lakewood on the east side of Briar Hill. But then on the west side of Briar Hill, it's big office and commercial. And then even further west, it hasn't even been zoned yet. So we'll see. There's a lot of buzz out there right now. You guys are all right. I think we're on the cusp of a lot of really good things. And we also have things done. You know, if you haven't been up to Truck Country yet, just stop in there. The general manager is a great guy. He invited anybody to bring their kids up that wants to sit in a big rig. And that's going to be a really good business for us. Very visible.
That must be the new lights that are shining.
Yeah, one light.
Yeah.
There's one light there.
One light.
There's like one, I think there's like 4 lights or 2 lights. Like
It's
so bright.
It's awful. It's truly awful.
I have no idea what you're.
It's worse than the love sign.
You
Love
mean
sign
like
is nothing.
Oh, you mean the sign?
There's no
No,
light,
it's
it's
a
a
light. So
light.
they must be lighting up their parking lot or something for maybe crime prevention.
You can
But
see
it's
it.
I
lighting
think
up
what
our
they're- it's
yards.
probably, do you live up there?
Yeah.
Both
So you
of
live
us
on,
do.
oh, you live on this side of
South
the
side.
tollway.
South side of the tollway.
Susie and I live next door to each other and this.
Ask Ryan, he
light
just
is-
approved their sign variance last week.
No, I didn't. I
It's
voted
not
against it. I was the only one. All right, hey guys, let's pull, yeah, let's.
It's not a sign.
Yeah, right.
It's
Mike,
just a light.
I'll look into that, but I think they're probably, you can't see the trucks that they have on the hills up there or not. They're visible from the tollway, so I think what they're doing is lighting those trucks.
That's
So
what
that
I
people on the tollway can see
Right.
them.
In terms of, so there's a lot of development that's coming, right? And it's something that anybody you think with, any ability to see it even a little bit into the future knew was going to happen. So obviously our opportunities are going to grow and, our vigilance is going to have to be, there so that, we are able to achieve the goals. I guess the one feedback we have to the board, which is my opportunity to speak when I'm there, is that when we're looking at housing developments and things like that, that we are looking to maintain a high level of quality in what's built. The size of the lots, obviously, I don't trust developers. I'm a salesman, trained not to trust salespeople. But of course, they're gonna tell us smaller lots, bigger homes. I know it's in the magazines and all that stuff, but we really want to make sure that in order to achieve the goals that we've laid out here in this commission, of things that we care about, is that we don't put up cheap housing, that in 10, 15 years from now, the people who can afford them don't have the disposable income to fix them. They turn into an area of blight. So the one thing that we've talked about here, when we ever talked about subdivisions, is that we want to make sure quality and that we maintain Hampshire as a community of upper quality too. Not saying that we don't want mixed use housing, but whatever is built to last and last for a long time, as much as possible, because those are, I think, the blights that we look at when we talk about living in the hills. We talk about, in some ways, what some of the South Elgin, I think, has some issues in their communities too, where they opened the door to developers that came in, built fast and loose to make a fast buck, and everybody thought it'd be a great thing because the income revenues to the village would be great, and you're going to bring all this, all these companies to do commercial. But at the end of the day, a village doesn't exist for 10 years. It exists for 100 years. It needs to last, and we want to make sure Hampshire maintains. If we're going to be at Geneva, we have to maintain quality throughout. And housing is a huge.
From a BDC standpoint, the only thing I would just, to all this growth, is we have to maintain that commercial space needs to be
Yes.
left for commercial.
Or you're taking retail type stuff. Yes.
So we're gonna build
Yes.
1,000 homes. I hope somebody has earmarked some property for commercial. Glass roof runs the same problem that we'll have.
And the challenge we have is the high, we just don't have the high traffic road. I mean, 72 is our commercial strip. And maybe we can extend downtown and down the road. That's the goal anyway at some point. But it's gonna be hard to get commercial along Allen Road, even along Big Timber, I think.
What about 20?
20 has potential if they ever really want, if the state ever does anything with it, but it's still just a 2-lane road. It's not, probably not gonna develop the traffic that probably needs there.
But I think those are some of the trade-offs we can make, as I was saying the other day, first thing I ever learned in sales is, don't give up anything without getting something in return. Right? If you're at even and everybody's happy and they want something, you have to ask for something in return. And that's one thing is these people want to keep asking for smaller and smaller lots. It's making them more money, period. It just does. Now, it might be the way the market's going and that's good to them, but we should use those as opportunities to leverage, setting aside commercial property like we did along Round King 72 with the Smart group. But I think Dave's point is perfect. It is a very good one. Obviously, I think the Stanley family is going to really help us with that new industrial park, because I think in addition to commercial, in order to have a viable, healthy, perfect town or whatever, you're always shooting for perfect. We should be. Industrial development should be a focus, and we want to make sure we have lands to the side for that as well. It's nice to get all those transition fees, right? And it looks great on a, it's like a CEO that's pump and dump. It's good to get all that money in quick, but then if you don't have, it's the experience that people live here get to have, and I think that's part of our responsibility. I think having commercial land set aside for retail and for industrial is part of helping the experience of people who will live here, not just today, but 100 years from now. It'll be good.
I do think that Route 20 north of Big Timber, up to the truck stops, and that would include the new, what is it called, logistics park that Mike Izzola is working on, 84 acres, 1 million square feet. He's now marketing pretty aggressively to the Amazons and FedExes and all that. I think that area could be, and that's part of the back listage, and they are on both sides of 20 there. So in that conversation tomorrow or Friday, I'll be having with them. Hope to talk to them about that.
I have a question. It used to be the fastest way for the Hampshire Fire Department to get to 90 was to go up Harmony and then take Getty Road across. Now Getty's closed. So does that mean they now have to go up Woodmire and then down Higgins and then back up 20 that way?
They could also take gas, I think, straight through to 20.
So they have to take Woodmire to,
But just so you know, the fire departments, if you're concerned about them getting to you, they're
no,
talking about building a new firehouse.
I would think so with all the buildings that are gonna go in Lakewood, they're gonna need another fire.
Yeah, well, and they have a location now that they're working on. It's on Flanagan Drive in that right near where Pat Ag is.
Okay.
That part. And they're
Which
working.
would make a lot of sense, because I hear the fire sirens, you probably do too, and I'm thinking, how are they getting there fast? They used to be fast. Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. Does anybody have anything else they want to add before we?
Last thing, any
Yeah.
update on new businesses or existing?
As far as any new businesses that we know that are going to be breaking ground anytime soon?
Bit of been talking, no, I haven't had anything. I think Joe Lazar's strip mall is still waiting for a couple more tenants to
Yeah.
sign before they can break ground.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned a laundromat. There is a laundromat plan for that if it goes forward.
The new bar, sports bar?
Yeah, the new sports bar, that's
Yeah.
true. And also a new ownership for the Iron Walk.
Oh, it is a new bar.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're,
that's good.
There's a new company, and they want to have a bar and gaming, so that's a pretty small space, but they're trying to add on to that. And this, it's
That's
just
next
coming
to
to
the
me.
Iron Bar.
Yes, it is next door. It's next door. And as Ryan knows, we did meet with a hardware store chain and they recently declined because they thought we pulled too much of their business from Genoa. But we met all their criteria. We worked with Bruce Berklow to meet all of their criteria. We gave them everything asked for and they just declined because it was full business.
Can't you do anything?
He's the corporate guy that came, I guess not really corporate co-op, right? He was clear about the criteria and we met all the criteria. So it's a little vague to me about whether it was really that decision or maybe Adam, the son, is maybe not ready. His dad's kind of stepping back. Now, in fact, David Ziegler was in here just last week. He owns 20 acres up near Mike Izzola's park that he was talking about what to do with. So they're I don't know, Bruce is talking to another hardware store chain down. So, but we're still working on it. What we do know is the minimum is probably 10,000 square feet, so we don't have a building downtown that would meet their specs. Unless somebody wanted a really interesting, real estate investment, might be buy that property and tear those two buildings down and make it, you know, commit to a 10,000 square foot building.
I don't know how our property is.
No, 10,000 is pretty big.
Yeah.
Ours is four.
The old hardware store was about 7 or 8, I think, and even that was divided by a wall in the middle, so it wasn't really. They asked us about the blocks building, because the last time they were here, that was for sale. Good news is that's
Yeah, that's
doing pretty well.
right.
I think they've done really well during the pandemic. I think people who live here in town discovered blocks during the pandemic.
Yeah. Just more intel on the bar and restaurant, just so I can put it in the notes.
First of all, I forgot to say, the family that is going to take over there and walk, they have a Chinese restaurant in Elgin. I haven't been there, and I don't remember the name of it, but they do have one. So if you're interested, Bruce Burklow can tell you who it is. I'm sorry, what's the last thing you asked? Oh, the sports bar.
Yeah.
He's like 3rd generation restaurant bar. I don't know what he's been doing lately. He hasn't had a bar lately, but anyway, it's going to be, he will have gaming. It'll be a full bar, sports bar. Not much to say other than that. I mean, he has good plans, and I think has some experience. So I think it'll be successful.
Is it a big storefront or?
Pardon me?
Do you know where?
Oh, yeah, it's in the Burklow space, right next to the Iron Block.
It's where the tanning place used to be.
The what place?
Isn't that where the tanning place used to be?
Oh.
I don't.
It's a
Did
small
the tanning
store.
place ever open up?
Very
Yeah.
small.
Oh, did it?
No, there was a tanning place
It's a
there when I
small
first
store.
moved in. It's a small.
Yeah,
It used to be the pet store.
It was
I think
also
it's-
the Verizon
And
store.
Verizon.
I think those are all 2,500 square feet, because 4 of those made up the 10,000 square feet that we pitched to the hardware.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
And then Snap Fitness. You want to there, right?
That, yeah, relatively new, yeah, like 6 months or so. Okay, and one of the things as we get ready to, as I look for a motion to adjourn, one of the things we just want to think about is, you know, some of our objectives going out into the future. So I'll probably send an email this week. I think one of the nice things is we've accomplished, I think, quite a bit. But we need to look at new things to go after and get on to and start to work on. So I'm going to send some emails out this week, sort of, so we can think about that. Because as I put together the agenda this time, it was quite light, thanks to A5. They filled up a good chunk of it. But going forward, we're going to have to think about some new things to work on. So they're putting the brains to work on that. But after that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Made.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I thought you were gonna be a holdout for me. All those
No,
nay?
dude.
All
I'm
right,
all.
well, thank you guys, great work as always, great input, and stay safe,
Hey, hey.
stay away from people. Wear your mask.
You guys know, okay, that creepy house that's on